Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Transformed You. It's great to see you all. I'm Mark DeJesus here with my amazing wife and co-host, Melissa. We're glad to be here with you all. And if you're listening to this or if you are watching the video form, we pray this is going to be a help to your life and your journey. This episode is focused primarily on feedback that we got regarding the subject of what does it mean to receive God's love, to love yourself as God loves you so that you can begin to impact your world. The first two episodes, we had some great dialogue about it. I feel like we got to a great start on this subject. Really, really good start. Yeah. The last episode got into the flow, and I feel like we were in the flow.
You know it.
We were flowing together.
That's always good.
Yeah. So in this episode, we want to get into emotional safety. And when we sent our resources out, sent the podcast out, the emails we got back were around emotional safety. So some things like feeling safe in your own skin kind of feeling. Yep. Being safe in decision making. I want to feel safe and when I hear that, I want to be safe in my decisions. What I hear is the word confidence. Like I want to be confident in the decisions I'm making.
Right.
And I feel that whenever we get into the context of what does it mean to love yourself, there's a confidence of God being with you. It's okay if you make a mistake. It's okay. You can step out and be yourself. So there's that issue. And there's the parenting issue. How do I, whether it's my young child or my grown-up adult child, how do I create a sense of emotional safety? And how do you have that in your relationships? We want that. We want to feel emotionally safe. I think when we hear the word love, loving yourself, a big word of it is safety. So we want to get into that. We want to talk about that. But if what we're talking about, the content we're putting out there, bears witness to you, it helps you, please share these videos, share the links, what we put on social media, whatever, and take a moment to go to markdejesus.com, check out our website, go there, and would you just do us a favor and click the donate button? That would help us. A one-time donation of any amount, or you can make it reoccurring of any amount. If you'd like to, there are two pathways you can choose. If you so wish to gain some resources, you can join our monthly Transformational Tribe partnership where you plug in and you'll get access to some great resources. You can also simply use a resource that we recommend, and this helps support our show as well too, and that's Audible. Audible offers a free 30-day subscription, one free book. You can take advantage of this resource. Our content is in audio format. We love producing that, and we know that more and more people are going through books by listening to them on the way to work, in the subway, on the bus, or going out for a jog or walk or at the gym, and more. So you can take advantage of this free audio resource, 30-day trial, and it's also helping us as well. If you're loving what we're talking about, get a copy of God Loves Me and I Love Myself, because our discussion surrounds this subject. We're taking it to new levels, to new places. It's available in paperback, audio, ebook, and there's also an e-course. There's a training course that if you're serious about it and you want to see others encouraged by it, that's a great way to watch the videos, get encouraged, and go to the next level. Yes. So we want to talk today about emotional safety. What does it mean to feel safe with yourself, with God, and with others? So in your journey, where did this start for you? How was it? And how have you been able to kind of figure out this issue in your own journey?
Well, where do I begin? So, okay, this is a huge issue for me that I've had to really work on and really identify, because there's so many things over the years in seeking out healing, trying to get God's love in a deeper place, and then going, okay, how do I see him? How do I receive that safe love from him and even process what that looks like? I've had to, in a lot of ways, reference my growing up and what did that look like and how was that established for me. That was a big piece for me to really recognize. And so growing up in the house that I did, I really feel like that I experienced like the gamut of stuff because of what my own parents were going through, right? So I had times where my mother was very engaged with us and then going through divorces and, dealing with my father who didn't know how to lead the home and all that. Like, I feel like that in every phase, it was always there where I wasn't safe because of what they were going through too. And they didn't know how to even give that to me. So even for an example, and I'm very fortunate that my father and I have been able to discuss a lot of these things. And for me to really just express that this is how I felt growing up. So I had an opportunity, which was really big for me and my parents, where I sat them down and I had to explain to them, like, these are some things that happened to me in my life and you need to be prepared. I'm probably going to talk about them, and I wanted to give them a heads up, like, hey, there's a lot of things, that are going to come out and I don't want you to be shocked. But I remember looking at them when I was expressing the things, and my dad had this real moment where he just went, we were just worried about ourselves. How did we not know this stuff was going on? And what I was expressing to them was times of, things that happened to me where I wasn't safe emotionally, I wasn't safe physically, and coming to terms where they didn't provide that safety for me.
And I think that speaks to something that's very important for all of us to understand. When you look back at parents and you're like, man, didn't have these things, or this happened that shouldn't have happened, and all these unloving kind of experiences that we have. What's the key factor is they didn't know they had their own junk that they were processing that kept them often distracted from being present. And I think that's the battleground, even today as parents, is that you can be locked into what you're battling, that you miss out on being present to still parent and to mirror what your child's going through, help them to develop self-awareness. So you're battling your own stuff. And this is why we talk about the loving yourself aspect, because loving yourself opens up the flow so that you're working on your stuff, but it doesn't take you away from your parenting. It actually makes your parenting better.
Right.
But many generations were so locked into their own drama, battles, issues, that it never caused them to be able to be present for the relationships right in front of them.
Right. And so now I want to kind of take two separate tangents on this aspect of upbringing too, because you can have a family that just had, like you're saying, a lot of turmoil, battles, relationship type things, but there wasn't like insane things going on. Now you have, which a lot of us have in our history, crazy things that happen. And so growing up, there was issues with my dad and alcoholism and those things that I had to deal with in this way. My dad can express love easy. I love you. I'm proud of you. That would fill me. Well, the unfortunate part is that horrible things would happen that would then take away from that. But I still carried this like deception. Can we call it a deception of my heart and knowing safety? I did not realize this. And I think most children who grew up with any kind of addiction in their home and that kind of distress and dysfunction, we have to face this. We really have to face this when it comes to the safety aspect. And if there's, and there's extreme, obviously, within all those. There's all kinds of extremes when you're dealing with addict situations. And my dad could tell me he loved me, but then he would do something to ruin it and take that away from me. But I didn't realize that. So growing up, even when I'm going through all these things, I'm not really tying back to that. Like I have this up and down of safety. Oh, you love me, but then take it away. Oh, you love me, but take it away. So my heart really and my brain got trained, really messed up on what does safety relationally, emotionally, like what does all that really mean? And, I'm so blessed that you and I in our journey have been able to tackle this stuff head on and give language to it and walk through it and all that stuff to really help me heal in that, because I didn't realize the setup of lack of safety. And then it fed into decisions that I made really to try to feel safe.
Right. Obsessive
thinking, mass confusion and double-mindedness, all went back. Like, I don't feel safe in anything I'm doing. Does that make sense how I laid that out? I want people to be clear on what I'm...
And it's important that anyone who's grown up with any addiction in the family, they have to realize, and they need to put some language to this, because sometimes it takes a long time for people to understand how, whether it's an alcoholic, a drug addict, prescription pill addict, or whatever.
Or manic episodes with a mother, like there's all kinds of...
But specifically the addiction background,
yes,
is that just that alone throws off your ability to regulate yourself emotionally.
Right.
And so people wonder, why can't I get it together? So it's growing up with an addict is like throwing a stick of dynamite in your emotional regulator. Boom. And it's like you don't know how to like land, because addictions train the family and loved ones to live in an unstable environment, and you never know what you're getting. You never know what to expect. So you're always somewhat apprehensive, trying to adjust to whatever's going to come your way. Some people can be like expert survivors, right? Others feel like, man, I feel like I'm an emotional wreck all the time. Sometimes it's just good to put language that when you grow up with addiction, that component's going to be there. That's regulating yourself emotionally is going to be a journey.
Yeah, that facing that in regards to how safe do I feel, excuse me, that was a huge eye opener. When you face that thing of safety, because we're in a world where, you're not safe online. You're not, where someone could attack you. We're living in a heightened world of that right now too, when it comes to safety. And I think if we can just start to, even when I referenced last week of just putting your hand on your heart and going, man, that self-talk of I'm safe today. You may not feel it right in that moment, but you get a little tiny that you got to start retraining the brain to go, no, I'm okay.
Right.
I'm safe. I'm going to make it,
Can you put some language to what it means to be safe? What does it mean to live in safety?
For me, living in safety has garnered a lot of peace for me. So even when and I've had to really train myself in this, because I can react. That for me was a huge component of what I developed of not feeling safe. Everything was drama. Everything I created around me, touched, I felt like was just massive drama, massive chaos. And if it wasn't like that, I found a way to make it like that, because that was what I was used to. And that was very unsafe for me, but I was used to it. Even though I didn't want it, hated it, hate how it felt, that's what I would do.
So safety begins with defining what health looks like, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Because what you're
which
describing,
I didn't know.
What you're describing is like what you were following is wasn't healthy, but it's what you knew. So it was like some people can't feel safe or normal unless they have drama.
Right.
And when there's a relationship that kind of calms down, it feels weird. Where if there's peace, it's like, this feels really odd. I don't know what to do with this. Don't know where to go with this. Even
for me, there was very big parts of my life where I had to be a fighter. I had to always, boom, you're not going to talk to me that way. But, I had to fight through everything. And so even when someone was trying to talk to me, I had to get the first word in. There was chaos and this like inner turmoil around everything. A huge part of me getting safe for me was not just having you in my life, but when you and I were going through times where we needed to work something out, a big part of me was getting over the hump of like, you don't have to say anything right now. Calm down. Like an inner calming of, you don't have to win this war. You don't have to put your dukes up. There was a big aspect of that for me when it came to safety and making better decisions when it came to arguments, how to engage things. Because I feel like that thing it's in everything. That lack of safety is in everything, right?
I think when yes, definitely. When I first met you, because I'm listening to you talk, but I also want to insert into here that when you and I met, you were on a journey already of moving more towards safety, health in your life.
Real hard.
So that hunger that you had attracted me to you, because you carried a hunger to pursue the things of God without anyone telling you. There was no one like barking over your shoulder. There was no one like yelling at you that you need to do this. There's something inside of you that said, there's more for me. I need to go after this. I need to make the relational changes. You were already making relationship changes around you. Like Because when you're struggling with a lack of safety, you can still tend to be drawn to people that stir up that unhealthy kind of chaos, but it's all you know, so it's all you go to, but you're making those changes.
Well,
and a lot of times, in order for us to move into greater health and safety, we also need to like look at our relationship decisions. And a lot of people don't want that. They want to feel safe while still maintaining the same relational decisions that keep feeding the vortex of moving into patterns that just kind of pound at you, cause you to fall apart. And it's like, no, you got to make some decisions. You have to, part of loving yourself the way God loves you is you cultivate an environment around you. It's not a bubble. It's not a bubble that you just, nothing ever hurts me. I never feel anything. It's more so the thermostat that you set of your life, and that includes your self-talk. It includes what you welcome in, what you teach, and relationally what you cultivate around you. That I think is incredibly important. It's like I'm going to invest in these good relationships where people want to be healthy, they want to be whole, and we're going to move towards better places where I'm reinforcing that safety in myself.
Right. That's really good, because I was just going to say it goes back to what you said before about what is health. So in my discovery of what safety was and wanting to feel better, there were people I thought were the image of good family and good. It's the thing I always sought after, right? So I had these set of friends years ago that I looked to, that I went, oh, they're like all good looking couples, and they have like nice houses, and they all have like, one's a school teacher. Everybody had this portrayal of what I thought was
it would have fit
the
well
American family.
It would have fit well on Instagram.
Right. It does. It does. When they take pictures, it looks great. But I thought that's what I wanted. So I kept trying to jam me into it, and it never worked. So then my rejection would constantly kick up. I would leave feeling a mess, over talking, and it always like just spiraled like dominoes into like every other issue that I was trying to deal with. And so that's a really important thing about, what you're looking towards, and starting to recognize what are the relationships around me that I'm trying to make fit. And when it's like, what does, back to the question of, what does health look like? Because out of that, then you can start establishing. I think the thing I want to say today is a good word in regards to safety is that establishing. You have to start establishing it, because it just doesn't happen. When you go, oh, this is amazing, I want to feel safe, you got to cut yourself a lot of slack. And that goes back to my original sentiment last week of, it's going to take incremental things to go, I'm safe, because I don't know how this feels, but I want it really bad.
Right. And I think that you mentioned about forcing yourself. There's a lot of people, I think, watching and listening that you're trying to force yourself to be in certain circles of relationships, and it's coming out of a lack of loving yourself, because it's like, I don't like who I am, so if I can insert myself into this kind of picture and experience what I'm seeing in this, then maybe I'll be loved and maybe I'll be accepted. And that's not how it works. Love says, I'm going to appreciate who God has made me to be. Right. I'm going to accept myself right now, good, bad, and ugly, that I'm working through. And now I'm going to move with the kindness and patience of God into what's possible. And then there's another level, because people can have great environments, but the environment inside can still be very hostile. And I found in the work I'm doing with people, even with myself, my environment can be amazing, but there's an inner turmoil still inside. And so I think that's another level of like, that's good. I have to first assess my environment, but then I got to first assess my internal, which is
I got to deal with myself.
I got to deal with myself, because I've been in very like great, encouraging, positive environments, and it's like I'm still not comfortable in my own skin right now.
Right.
And so that took me to a deeper level of understanding what's the self-talk that's going on. I need to be self-aware what's happening. Yeah. I need to be intentional about how I'm moving my thoughts into a more loving atmosphere. I say this all the time. So many people, if we were to go into your thoughts about how you think about yourself, we'd have to call Child and Family Services, because it's abuse, you know, in the way that you talk to yourself. But learning, I think I would really encourage people is to begin assessing your life and yourself in ways where you're not instantly judging everything, right? We live in a culture where it's increasing. Judgmentalism is increasing more and more. So you go on social media, somebody posts something, the judgment comes right out, okay? And that shows how we deal with ourselves internally. We don't know how to be going through something without a harsh assessment immediately.
Yeah.
And so we either go one of two directions. We either like spiral in self-beating, or we shove it down and don't even think about it because we don't know how to deal with our problems without instant like judgmentalism, criticism, to go, all right, I'm going through some stuff.
Yeah, because in that judgmentalism and criticism where you're analyzing, you're checked out from relationship.
Right.
I notice when I do that, I had this weird thing that I get spun out sometimes, and I have to protect myself on Instagram because I'm obsessed with all the farmhouse people and ladies. And so I was obsessing about where I want to afford all these things that make our house look like a farmhouse.
Right.
I literally went into this like, why did I choose that for the house? Why did I spend money on that? That doesn't look like that. Like I went into this internal beating up of myself of because I want my house to feel a certain way and look a certain way. Like, no. And it spun me out to where I go into this, and we do this, and I'm just picking a trivial thing, but we do this about major things too. Why did I do that? Then we start obsessing, and we're not present. We're not present to take in and enjoy anything. Or even if there's a crisis or something going on that needs you, which that to me leads into about how we parent, need you to be safe, need you to be present, need you to make right decisions. And we're not doing that because we're so inside what's going on with us. Right.
And it's being present is such a huge part of what it means to experience emotional safety. A lot of people say to me, I don't feel safe. How do I do that? Well, when you engage people that are good relationships to whatever degree, it's like allowing yourself to just keep landing, I'm safe, and experiencing the safety and being present in the moment, not being like the many times if people feel stuck, they need to get out of their heads and get into the relational engagement, talk to someone else, because you can't have a healthy interaction with someone if you're 100% thinking about yourself. That's not self-love anyways.
Right.
It's okay, I'm working on my stuff, but right now, this person in front of me is the focus. When I'm by myself later, I can think about some things I'm going through and I'm working through. Right now, this relational and having an outside of yourself, not focusing on yourself, look at someone else really helps you later and then assessing yourself. Because that, we get into introspection, all that kind of stuff, which is not good.
No.
It's not helpful.
Right. So okay, really quick, give a snippet if you can. The difference between like dealing with yourself and introspection so that doesn't get unhealthy. In regards to this.
A lot of times I don't realize I'm doing it until I'm really deep into it.
Right.
So it's okay. You just kind of go, all right, when you're looking at yourself and it's unproductive, where it's not making you better in your relationships. Because I find
like my farmhouse.
I find that
something stupid to obsess on.
Right.
Oh,
if you're looking at the farmhouse thing and you're battling that, and then someone calls you on the phone and you're still in that inner turmoil, you could be a sign of, okay, I was focusing way too much on myself, and I need to get out of that.
Right.
So I find introspection, stuck in your head, kind of spinning into something, and you can't seem to get out of it. Sometimes the answer is you're becoming self-consumed. The answer to self-hate, self-rejection is not being self-consumed. That's where this process takes wisdom. So if I ever feel stuck, I'll go, you know what? Let me talk to someone right now, and I'll reach out to someone who I know I love and care for, and we'll have a conversation. And I'll put that subject on pause, have a nice, fruitful conversation. Then when I revisit that subject, I feel like I'm more empowered to deal with it.
That's really good. It's like it brings you back to center. Okay, I need a reset right now to remember who I am, that I'm okay. And you can kind of go, all right, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm going to make it. Going to be okay.
So to answer your question, unhealthy introspection becomes something that it's unproductive.
Yeah.
And so if you're like journaling, or you're sitting having some quiet time, or you're going for a walk, and like you just feel like there's rejuvenation, there's things you're working through. It's fruitful in the sense of like your state of mind is improving. Even if it's just little steps. And you're just grabbing onto that safety, like you said, putting your hand over your heart, because we need our physiology to come into alignment with that. That's important. That takes time, especially if you've had a traumatic history of realigning your body to go, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay, it's all right, being kind to yourself. When you feel, now you're utilizing the empowerment of what it means to love yourself. But if you just feel like you're just ruminating, that's another word that people identify, where you're just kind of just unproductively, I think it's time to use an old analogy, is to pull the needle off the record.
Right.
And play a new track, get out of that, get a new pattern, talk to someone else.
Yeah, because
don't make it about yourself, talk about them, get in their world. And then it kind of puts what you're going through in perspective.
And I think because in all of this, we're all wanting to hear from God, right? We're all like, what's God saying about this? And we want to hear. And I think that when you are in that rumination and you're in that obsessiveness, a lot of error happens because people go, okay, it's like we just make up stuff that we think God is saying because we're like, we just need an answer quick, and we saw a bird fly in front of us, something, and you're like, oh, okay, that's my answer. And we are doing everything really like addicts in a lot of ways.
Right.
And we want to start encouraging people to just start resetting, get back to establishing what does safety look like, because even for your exchanges with Father God, that's going to start setting a precedence, because he is a peaceful, loving God that just wants to be with you and spend time with you. And we have no idea. And that was my journey in referencing back to my relationship, even with my dad. So now I'm trying to reference God, and I'm realizing the in and out that I had with Father God was what I was projecting on him because of the relationship that had been established with my own dad. And so even getting that safety back with my Father in heaven, oh no, I am safe with you. You're not going to pull it away from me.
Right.
That was a huge piece of this safety. If you could speak to that for people, I think that would be really helpful.
Well, I think you addressed it really well.
Oh, thanks.
And I think that, why people look at like a bird flying by and they go, maybe, that bird is red and it's red because the red is the
my dad liked red, or my
that's my
friend, we pull on things.
We all do that to a degree.
Totally, yeah.
Do you know why? Because we want confirmation. Do you know why Christians are obsessed with confirmation? It's like not really even a biblical thing, but we use it. I need God just to help me with a confirmation. Thank you for that confirmation. That brings confirmation to what? Because we didn't get that growing up. So we don't trust our decision-making abilities.
So good. Can we stop right there? Really?
So good. So when you're in a situation, you're like, I feel like this is my decision, but you're like 60% sure. And you're like, so you go talk to someone because you want confirmation, you pray to God, and then you're like in church, and this is what 90% of people do in church service. Okay? This is gonna frustrate all the preachers out there. What 90% of people do in a church service is they bring the problem they're obsessing over, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Should I break up with my boyfriend? What do I do about my marriage? Should I pick this job? What do I do about my unhappiness? Should I go on medication? Whatever they're going through, they bring that subject into the church service and they listen to the sermon through the lens of that battle.
Right.
So they're not hearing what
that's 100% what goes on.
They're not listening to what the teacher is saying. They're listening to what they're saying and trying to jam it into what they're going through. So like the person could be talking about, being generous with your life, and the subject is generosity with your finances. And they're like, with their marriage problem, like tuning into something.
I need to stay because I need to be more generous to my husband. That's it. That's the answer. And you're like, and what does this go back to?
So it derails because we're wanting confirmation.
And you never had wisdom from anybody growing up to give you. You don't know what it even sounds like. So the preachers are the daddies right now.
Right.
In a dysfunctional way.
Right.
Don't get me started.
And daddy, if you say something that disrupts me, I'm leaving.
And you're a bad daddy. Right.
So
anyway, we could go on.
Well, so this, if I could take a few minutes just to talk about how your sense of safety gets developed. Your sense of safety gets developed in childhood through the safe, secure relationship attachments that you develop. And this starts with your parents. and everything goes back to this. So you have to understand, if you're going to listen to anything we're talking about, it's like whatever you're going through is usually from a lens or filter of beliefs and things that have happened through brokenness in your history, through this relationship, this thing. This is back mom and dad. It goes back to mom and dad. It always does. Why is mom and dad such an important subject for you? Because it's your introduction of everything you formed in life. It was the first voice, the first reference. They are meant to be the first safe, secure attachment that is in a good way. So it starts you off where they teach relationship priority. You're loved because you're loved because you're loved. And relationship investment. We spend time together, not just doing things or making you do things, but we spend time together just to be together, to create that establishment of love. In that context, there's healthy discipline, correction, those kind of things, but relationships the priority. Then what it does is it helps you to understand in the context of love. It helps you process out stuff you're going through. So to use a psychological term, a parent is meant in early childhood to mirror back to the child what they're going through, in the sense of like, you see your child frustrated. You stop, you sit down, you go, hey, what's going on? You seem sad. They kind of go, yeah, I think I am sad. And they express something that comes out.
Right, now you're giving them language.
And then you kind of go, well, it seems to me like you're sad, but you're also mad. You're mad about that thing. You're mad at yourself. And then you start putting language, like you said, to things to help them navigate and maneuver through it, so that then they can develop self-awareness. When they develop self-awareness, they're able to recognize, here's what I'm feeling, here's what I'm going through. Then they also develop the ability to regulate it, because it's like, mom and dad helped me to see this is what I was going through. Here's how I can work it out. In the context of safety, you also develop empathy. What's empathy? It helps you to realize what it means to love yourself, to have compassion on someone, to see what someone else is going through and have compassion.
Right.
And then, everything I'm describing would trigger some to say, well, this would make you live like in a little perfect bubble. And it's not a bubble. It's preparatory.
It's being a healthy human.
Goodness, right?
What is that?
So that then you get sent out into the world. If emotional love for yourself is set and regulated properly in childhood, you go out into the world able to love others and to realize the world does not revolve around you. So if we see selfish, entitled people, that is a lack of all the things that I just described. So a healthy attachments and these developments in childhood, they do not create a bubble. We're accusing some families of like, oh, you're bubbling your kids. I don't know. In the early stages, mom and dad are it. You develop friendships and things like that, but mom and dad need to establish in their own way the mother's nurture, the father's heart and protection, working together in those things. So if you look at your history goes back to that not being established. And for most people, it was never there or it was hijacked.
Right.
So if it's not there, whatever is the dominant theme, like you mentioned, addictions, that throws a stick of dynamite in it. And then you're going to look for addiction kind of arena. You don't feel comfortable in just safety. If you have performance-based environments, that's what you produce. That's all you know. So then you transpose that to your kids. So I think for parents, now there's some parents that would listen to this and go, oh man, I really messed this up. I didn't do that with my children growing up. I want you to know that God is also a redemptive God. So if your kid's 20 or 30 or 40, you can always go back. Here's the power of parenting. You can always have a conversation, a true humble conversation that says, you know what? I messed some things up. And I realize that. And God's working on me. And I'd like to see those things change in my life. And I know it's many years later, and I know you're going through a lot of stuff and all that. And if you can do that without beating yourself up, oh, I ruined my kid's life. The more you do that, let me say this, the more you beat yourself up about your kid's life, the more they will not be open to freedom.
Right. And isn't
so they have to stop that.
Right.
So that then you can now have healthy conversation to be safe, I'll just say this one more thing. And so
No,
people
go
say,
ahead.
well, how do I do that? Make the priority of your interaction loving relationship. Most of us interact relationally, focusing on all the elephants in the room. We've made them elephants. They're subjects of, well, my kid's doing something wrong. They made bad choices. So those bad choices, immoral things, they become like front and center. They become the thing that you're focusing on. You can't see anything else because that's all you see. So then you want to talk to the kid and go, we obsess about correcting people, right? Mm-hmm. And in Christianity, we have like a very religious spirit where we obsess about, I got to make sure I address this issue. And it makes us in charge, not God in charge.
Right.
Rather than going, all right, I want to create a loving environment. Love does not ignore sin, because that's what some people do. Oh, we just got to love. And it's very weak, very powerless. It's like, no, you just don't want to deal with anything.
Right.
Love doesn't ignore it. It puts the issue in the right context. So, you've got a Christian friend who's making certain decisions, or your child is not making the greatest decision, and they're an adult. They're on their own now. And you obsess about that thing, and you got to call them and tell them. And it's like, no, you got to call them and develop love, relationship, safety to where they feel safe.
Right.
Because a lot of kids were raised to lie to their parents. Mm-hmm. Right?
Most kids, right.
Let's look at all our histories. Like, how much lying were we doing?
Yeah.
It's pretty.
Were you doing that? No. Well, I just saw your hand on the cookie jar. No. We lie about kids do that naturally.
Right.
It's one thing that we focus real hard on with our kids in walking through that with them and teaching them, language skills and all that about emotional health. We always tell them, listen, we will always love you. Forgiveness is always available in truth. We need to know the truth, because guess what? Mommy and daddy can only help you when we know the truth of situations.
Right.
No matter how bad it is, we always tell them, no matter how trivial, whatever, when we can know the truth and it's in the light, we can handle anything. And so I feel like for me, as you're speaking, the big word that comes to me when it comes to parents that have maybe not had the right moments with their kids, it all comes down to how you are going to posture your response. So when you're going, I see all this stuff, I need to go to my kid and say, I'm sorry I screwed up. I wasn't the best father. I wasn't the best mother. And they go, yup, you're right. Boom. And the shotgun, ga-dum, ga-dum. How are you going to position your response? Because you might want to sit there and say, yeah, but let me help you understand what was going on in my life. And no, right. When you can start having safety for yourself, now the exchange of safety for them in the response is so huge to start, back to the word of reestablishing safety flow in relationships with your kids.
Yeah, because if you respond in a way that's like defensive, angry, it shows you're not safe in yourself.
No, and you're not listening, and you're making it about you. No, the kid needs this to be reestablished. And if that's your goal, you need to practice what your response is when you're getting fired at, or when your kid sits there and says nothing, whatever, it's in the past. I have a family member that is big on that. No, it's in the past, forget it, we don't have to talk about it. No, you're manifesting things. Right.
A lot of people
they don't want to
think
talk about it.
The past is the past. Well, no, the past is not the past if it's infecting what you're doing and thinking now.
Right.
It's ridiculous for people to think the past does not affect your present. That's one of the most ignorant statements in the world. You are a culmination of how you've dealt with your history, how you've processed it, your belief systems. You are a current sponge of all those collections. And it's okay. God's working on all those areas, and he'll continue to do that.
Right.
So I think that.
So can I just say something before you say that? So the one thing I just want to say to most parents, and it's the thing we've been challenged in, get really comfortable saying, I'm sorry I made you feel that way.
Right.
I'm sorry. Can we work on this together? I'm going through this too. Vulnerable responses are the best responses when it comes to your kids. When I've had those moments with my parents where we've gone, because we're big in the family. We like to go over it and hammer it and go at it. And I like to talk about it. And nope, I don't feel safe again. We got to talk about it again. When they give me the response of, I'm sorry, I didn't know what I was doing. How could... That is the best point where we go, okay, I have a starting point of safety now. Thank you. Now let's have some fruitful dialogue. And
you have to be ready to that if there isn't safety, if there's clear that's not safety, being willing to just let people go.
That is true too. That's another aspect.
Because
yes.
I don't want.
We're talking about this from a place of.
I don't want it to be misunderstood.
Real great reconciliation.
Yeah. I don't want to miscommunicate that, because you've had to let people go. I've had to let people go, whether it's certain family members or certain things. You just let it go, because it's like we don't have a plane where we can interact and reason together. And so when you don't have that, a lot of times loving yourself is going, I just got to let this go right now. And
a decision not to be abused is your safety.
Yeah. I have one thought.
Go ahead.
In just kind of bringing this to an application, I've learned that as Christians, like, we want to feel safe with God. I'm hearing Mark and Melissa talk, and I like what they're saying, and I want to be safe. I think what I want to also communicate to you is, in your relationship with God, God is not going to lead you into a place where everything around you eventually just lines up and you feel just this beautiful, perfect safety. So now I can land. You will always need to have a sense of risk where you're learning to trust
and grow.
And because everything in God is by faith. So your faith does not get developed if all of a sudden he goes, boom, I'm going to make all your relationships safe, perfect, and beautiful. You're going to have a level of that uncertainty. You're going to have a level where you're like, okay, I'm growing in the safety of love, but man, I've got all these areas that seem to be. Those are usually areas where God is going, I want to teach you trust at a deeper level, in the sense of you exercising a step out to go, I want to expand the faith that I have in God, that I am safe with him at all times. That was the expression David expressed when he said, whether I go to the depths or whether I, fly on the wings of the dawn or settle on the far parts of the sea, and all that language, that poetic language that he used. He said, you're there with me. Your hand will guide me. You surround me. All his language was the safety of trust. That I'm going to learn to trust. Now, your trust muscles were hijacked by your upbringing and by your traumas and dramas, but God is patient with the recovery, but just step by step. How am I going to trust today? I'm going to take a step here. Okay, that didn't work out so good. That's all right. I'm going to keep learning to develop the trust muscles to tell myself and to radiate around me that there is safety in God. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Psalm 91. I'll say of the Lord, he's my refuge, my fortress, my God, in him will I trust. So it's the exercising of trust. Sometimes we want the safety to come to us rather than taking the step into safety. I declare today I'm safe with God. Meanwhile, you got stuff screaming, anxious, what about your finances? These people, all this stuff. Okay, I say today, I'm safe in God, and I'm cultivating my belief system, tuning my trust muscles, that where I am, and what's the next step I can take? What's the next step I can take to cultivate that safety? Maybe it's that relationship that I go, you know what? Instead of waiting for them to call me, why don't I call them? You go, well, I have to call them all the time. Well, who cares? Just maybe that's what it is right now.
Right now, right.
Maybe some people have been that with you, where they had to call you all the time.
Right. We don't ever recognize that part.
So that helps. I want to be a safe person for others. So, and start with my own internal dialogue. I want to be kind to myself, not so quick to judge and body slam myself and quick to spiral in all my despair. So I carry that. So when someone else is talking to me, I remember I was doing a session with somebody, and this is where I saw the growth. We got to the end of the session, and the person felt like they weren't able to share as much as they wanted to. And I had happened to kind of go down to, I kind of felt like there's some things I needed to teach. And maybe like 10 years ago, hearing them go, basically, I wanted to talk more would make me spiral.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was like, it was a good moment. That's a good, it helped me with some self-awareness to go, all right, I'm going to be more mindful of that, to tune in a little bit more. Because I try to do more on the listening rather than the talking. Yeah. And that time, the talking went down a whole path. You know, you get like lost in your own revelations. Yeah. And so being able to hear that from someone I was connected to and was sharing it in a loving way helped improve my life.
Right.
So there will be some of those discussions where people can help you to become more self-aware. A lot of us you don't know how you come across.
No, we don't.
And you have no one in your life to go,
who can touch those topics.
You're lonely and you don't have friends because you're not a safe person to be around. And you don't realize that you come across in this way every time. You hijack the conversations we're so shut off from hearing that because we're a lot of reasons. But self-love goes, all right, I can receive even those corrective words.
So good, baby.
So I can be safe. So if whatever your complaint is in life, I'm in relationships, or I want to be married and I'm not married. And it's like, focus on the person that you are becoming, that you are. Develop that. Be that for people. And focus on that. You'll see much more fruit coming out of that.
That was so good.
Yeah, I feel like it's helping. I feel like it's helping me.
It's helping me, right? I was going to say. I got blessed today.
And I feel like when there's unsafe arenas, my tendency is I'll see it, and then it's like, what do I need to do about it? And then I can get frustrated. I just get angry that this thing is just happening the way it is. Yeah. And I'm learning even recently the power of like letting go is an act of self-love too. Yeah. Because most of us operate more codependent.
Right. It's good.
Meaning that however the situation is going, we adjust because we maintain the unhealthy attachment to something that's not fruitful. And we adjust with it and we keep rolling with it. And we have to break out of codependent patterns a lot to learn to realize, okay, this is a relationship. Let's let it go. I'll let them go and let God do something.
Well.
I don't think I do that well.
I don't either. How can I make this right? How can we fix this?
Because we want to be loving and we want good, healthy things.
We want to be loved.
So then you develop unhealthy attachments.
Yeah, but really at the core of it, we want to be liked and loved. That's a whole other show.
Right. So I think a lot of our listeners and watchers need to consider some relationships that you need to let go. Not in the sense of like call them up and go, I'm not speaking to you anymore. In the sense of like let go of some of their poor decisions. Maybe you're a parent and you've got a 20-something-year-old or 30-something-year-old kid and they're not making the best decisions. And maybe you see some of their stuff as your stuff and you see some of your mistakes in parenting. First, be kind to yourself, but you may need to just let them go. They still have to figure it out. And maybe there's a friendship or there's a church or there's a pastor or there is a group of people and you've got to let it go. And you got to kind of leave the land you're in and move into a new land. And then as you're doing that, you feel like you want to go back and you make all these like unloving choices and stuff like that.
To feel better, right?
So I'm learning as I'm sharing, as we're sharing. We're learning this process. Yeah. But I want to emphasize safety is it's got to be built around faith. I got to cultivate my faith. It's not just going to show up to me. I've got to learn what safety is, and by faith, learn to exercise my trust muscles. Even when circumstances, like you may be in a financial difficulty. What does it mean to go, I am safe even though my finances are terrible? Wow, that's a really great, empowering question, right? Because then it leads you to not be dictated by your bank account. Because most Americans I know, in Western culture kind of, thinking, if your finances are hit, your Christianity is rocked.
Right. So true. That's an oucher, but it's true.
That's all the devil has to do to kill American safety.
Right.
Let me just hit your bank account and you'll be crumbled.
Because what do we equate that with? God's not blessing you.
And when we we equate that with God is blessing
them, blessing us. Right.
Well, yes, it's a blessing, but God is blessing my decisions and my lifestyle. He approves of everything I'm doing because the money is good and I've got some success with people. Baloney. It's not true at all. I mean, in fact, it may not even be true. God can be good even to those who aren't following in his ways. So that's a bad metric.
Very.
But we live in that and we look on social media and we're like, oh, I don't have that. And jealousy, comparison, all that stuff. Yeah. Because we don't have the right metric and we don't know how to love ourselves the way God loves us. So anyways, if this subject has helped you,
let us know, please.
Let us know. Yeah. Send us questions, and we want to be an encouragement to your life and journey. Take some time to get a hold of God Loves Me and I Love Myself. This book will help talk about the subject. I even address what it's not. What does it mean to be kind of on the wrong track? And then establishing what are some good patterns. I tell some of my own stories of what I've been through, what I've gone, and please consider donating, supporting financially through your prayers and contributions. And we're so appreciative of that. So until Next time, live healed, free, transformed, be loved today.
Yeah.
Let love have its work in your life and your relationships. And we look forward to being with you guys next time.
Yes.
Thank you so much.